There, we want to switch gears now and go to a live court hearing. This is actually a sentencing that is taking place in Ohio. A terrible crash that happened in 2023. It's when a Newark, Ohio judge, he's actually now presiding over this, but it happened when a tractor-trailer driver was accused of vehicular homicide in a crash with a bus, a charter bus, and an SUV that killed 6 people and injuring about 18 others. Let's listen in here live on Live Impact News.
Nature. A person is reckless with respect to circumstances when, with heedless indifference to the consequences, the person disregards a substantial and unjustifiable risk that such circumstances are likely to exist. Negligence is defined as follows. A person acts negligently when, because of a substantial lapse from due care, the person fails to perceive or avoid a risk that the person's conduct may cause a certain result or be of a certain nature. A person is negligent with respect to circumstances when, because of a substantial lapse from due care, the person fails to perceive or avoid a risk that such circumstances may exist. I find that Mr. McDonald is criminally responsible for this accident, this collision. However, I find that the state has failed to establish beyond a reasonable doubt the element of recklessness. There was a lot of argument and evidence centered around the data from the defendant's cell phone. Frankly, I did not find the evidence regarding the data from the cell phone to be convincing. Because I find that the state has failed to meet the element of recklessness, I'm going to enter a not guilty verdict on counts 1 through 6 and 7 through 15. However, I will enter guilty verdicts on the lesser included offenses to counts 1 through 6, which are vehicular homicide, violation of revised code section 2903.06 A3A, which is based on his negligent operation of the vehicle. Counts 7 through 15, frankly, they're based on a higher mens rea or mental element than even recklessly. And because I find the state has failed to establish the element of recklessness, the evidence is insufficient to establish that he knowingly did this. All right, I anticipate that the parties would prefer that sentencing be scheduled at a later time in order to make sure we comply with Marcy's law. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, then I'll schedule sentencing at a later time. Bond is revoked. Do counsel have anything further at this point?
Yes, Your Honor, just for clarification, the vehicular assault charges are 9 counts of those are also, you're finding negligent on them, those charges, as well as...
I find that he acted negligently at least, but are you suggesting there's a lesser included offense based on negligent operation and physical harm?
I'm just asking if the court is making that finding on... No, I'm not. I'm just asking.
Okay, yeah, it's not guilty then on counts 16 through 26.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you.
All rise. So, Mr. McDonald.
Yes, sir. Yes, he decided that he was not
assaults.
That's a great question to ask the judge. And that is that he's only subject to misdemeanor sentencing. It's surprised me in terms of we believe that we presented sufficient evidence. We believe we presented sufficient evidence to find him guilty of all charges. We disagree with the verdict. That's the judge's province to make. He is the trier of fact in this particular case, as it's a bench trial, not a jury trial.
Were you surprised at the judge's decision?
The judge's decision is the judge's decision. It's within the gambit of what he could decide. What I can tell you is this. I want to thank the Ohio State Highway Patrol for the hard work that they did, especially Sergeant Trevor Jasper, Trooper James Coughlin, also Trooper Sean Grimm. The patrol's work in this case was fantastic. I'd also like to thank the people from Tuscarawas Valley who have suffered an absolute disaster on November 14th. The verdict is the judge's. The verdict belongs to the judge. We disagree.
If the phone had not been destroyed, would that change things?
Well, there obviously be more evidence, but the phone is independent of whether or not he was reckless. Again, that was our opinion. That's what we outlined, that there was 3 different ways that.
All right, we're going to switch to our sister station, WBNS's local coverage now for more clear sound.
Well, there obviously be more evidence, but the phone is independent of whether or not he was reckless. Again, that was our opinion. That's what we outlined, that there was 3 different ways that we believe that he was reckless. And so, again, we disagree with the judge's ruling. That's the judge's province to do that. And we believe we presented sufficient evidence for convictions on all charges.
Do you have any regrets in how you presented your case?
No.
What does this do for the families who were thinking they would get more out of this than misdemeanor charges?
Realistically, our system is one based on law and based on facts. Juries decide cases, and in the absence of juries at the election of the defense, they can request a bench trial. That is our system. We respect the decision of the court. That is our system.
This has been a long process for the families. I know you've been in constant contact with them for the last year and a half, pretty much. What conversations will you have with them leading up to sentencing?
The conversations that I would have with them is something that I probably will not discuss with the media. And just because, again, they suffered a tremendous loss. It's an incalculable loss. And, unfortunately, the system didn't serve him in this particular case.
Why do you think it was reckless?
You were sitting through the same trial I was.
I was not.
No? I would refer you to my closing argument. I would refer you to the evidence we presented. We disagree.
Reckless because there was evidence that he was on his phone, reckless because he didn't slow down, reckless because he was speeding.
Well, I think I covered that in my closing.
I wasn't here, so I'm just trying to look for a summation.
Well, I don't know that I can in 10 seconds, but the best I could probably do is tell you that if you close your eyes for 7 seconds and you're carrying 50,000 pounds of weight down a road, moving 105 feet a second, and you don't see anything in front of you, so much so that when a picture is taken of you, when you're not expecting it by a witness and you have your hands up in the air and you're completely oblivious to what happened, yeah, you're probably reckless. So we disagree.
We could hear the family's reaction to the verdict, but on a personal level, I'm wondering how you feel.
I don't feel good. I mean, this is one of the consequences of all trials. So we accept the court's decision in this matter, and this is the system that we have.
Did they set a sentencing date?
Not yet.
Sir, some of us were in the hallway when you began this media gaggle. What was your initial reaction to your overall reaction to the verdict today?
Disappointing.
Is this closure for the families, or what do you do now?
I don't think that when you bury 6 people and you have
a number of other people who have suffered serious harm, life-changing injuries, that there's going to be closure. I don't think that any verdict in this court would bring closure to the severity of loss that these people have suffered. I think at the end of the day, the process itself is part of the healing, but it's not the conclusion of the healing. It's just you can't sum up their loss in any words.
Do you think there's one thing in particular that hurt the case, that prevented the guilty on the felony version?
Every case comes down to the weighing of the evidence either by a jury or by a judge. And the verdict of every case is decided by that. And so in this particular case, the judge felt that the evidence wasn't sufficient to sustain that standard. In the position that he was in, that's his prerogative to do.
Spell your name for us, please.
M-U-R-P-H-Y is the last name. What I will say this about Judge Branstool, I've known him for 8 years. He's a good man. I think he's a man of integrity, and I think he's fair. I think he's a fair judge. I think he's a good judge.
And first name? We're from Cleveland. That's why I don't know.
Oh, first name is Clifford, C-L-I-F-F-O-R-D.
County prosecutor or prosecutor?
Assistant prosecutor.
Okay, thank you so much.
So.